You have this tagline here. It's a memoir of food, love, and manic depression. Just very
big tagline.
But why did you go with manic depression and not bipolar?
Because I think when you say bipolar, people don't quite know what it is. Manic depression is so descriptive. It's mania and it's depression. And I think when you tell people what I go through, I'm bipolar, well, what does that mean? If I say I'm manic depressive, then they go, oh, all right, but they get a better idea. And I think it's more descriptive. It's old fashioned.
It is.
It's the old term. But Kay Redfield Jamison prefers that term. And once I read her reason why, I thought, I like that term too. It's descriptive and I'm not ashamed of it.
Got it. So in this series, we're going to walk through your book in sections. Clearly, we won't cover everything. But I want to hear the things that aren't in the book and also explanations of the parts of the book. So let's start with your childhood. My favorite character in the book was not you. And I hate to be rude and brash.
I can tell you I know who it is.
Your mother.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Yes, my mother's always overshadowed me.
Yeah. Which is another thing you're working through.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell me about your childhood.
My childhood was a wild ride in a lot of ways because it was an immigrant family. And so we were marvelously loud. No one really understood the traditions and sort of the norms of the American society. And it was very closed off. It's I call it the humid huddle of the family. It's very closed off. And so we lived in a house with my grandmother, my grandfather, my godmother, my godfather, my cousin Wayne, my cousin Barry, my parents, and me. So there were 8 of us in one big house with all these apartments.
How many bathrooms?
Everyone had their own apartment, but there was there were 3 bathrooms. Our bathroom didn't have a shower. We had to use the shower downstairs, the bath downstairs. Okay. So it was like having 2 brothers, having 3 mothers, having 3 fathers. And on top of it, on Brownell Street, which goes right down to the Taunton River in Fall River, Massachusetts, every parent in that neighborhood felt they were and behaved as if they were your parent. So you get your ass whacked by someone's father, you get yelled at by someone's mother, or if someone from another neighborhood came over, the mothers would band together and just go after that kid and his mother and get them the hell out of our neighborhood. So you felt very
Even if they were nice?
No, it's if they were going after you.
Oh, okay.
Now, if they were wanting to beat you up, which happened a lot in my neighborhood, people getting beat up. If they were coming to beat you up, they would band against that mother and that kid to get them out of there. So it was a passionate household. It was a loud household. It was a funny household. But there were, at the same time, which is not really in the book, there's a lot of mental illness, I believe, in my family that's undiagnosed. And of course, it's not my job to diagnose them. But you can look back and you can see some really unusual behaviors in some of the people. But it was all folded up under the skirts of being Portuguese. We're Portuguese and this is who we are. And it was just, a lot of it was written off that way.
I loved the part of the book where you called out the hypocrisy of that statement, where you said, they're so loud and who cares what everyone thinks of us? It doesn't matter. But then before you went to school, they go, well, you got to dress the right way. What would people think?
Exactly.
So there was that hypocrisy.
It was always that. Yeah. You were allowed to be everything loud in this, but when it came to trying to fit in, you were marched out the door kind of looking like everyone else. And the thing is, I didn't. I was dark haired. I have dark eyes. And I didn't see myself on television. I was glued to the TV from the very beginning. I think like all of us was. All of us were. And so I wanted to see myself elsewhere and I didn't. And that was a very hard thing for me.
How do you pronounce the word Vanetta?
Vanetta.
Vanetta.
Vanetta. Very close, yeah.
Okay.
Vanetta.
Vanetta. What is your definition of Vanetta?
Vanetta is this indomitable force, this passion, this almost rage. If something happens and God be damned if you're the person in the path of someone who has that, especially my mother. If she had the Vanetta and she was coming after you, man, you better run because you knew that something big was going to happen. So like I say in the book, she could make bank presidents cow. She would make everyone just cow down in front of her because she was so powerful that way. And it can be used for good or bad. I mean, there's Glenda, and there's also Wicked Witch of the West aspect about this. It can be done for helping someone and it can be done and kind of destroy people. So it's kind of a power you have to be very careful of. But in Portuguese, a lot of people go, which means it's starting. So
that's the start of Vanetta.
Get out of the way. And I see it in so many people.
When's the last time you had an episode of Vanetta?
No, probably like this week. I'm sure.
So this is a continual.
Oh yeah, this is It's my genetic history. You know, it's in my 23andMe. There's the Vanetta gene. But
you're 23andMe. Yeah.
But I do think that it's part of our culture and part of who we are, and if it goes unchecked, I think it can really be. It can be careful. You got to be careful with it. There's that example in the book I talk about when my mother and I were driving down the highway and this guy cut her off, and she just pulled out and went after him, flew after him, cut him off, and you hear all these brakes squealing behind, and she's just waving as she gets off, just to make sure he knew that she got the best of him. That's Vanetta.
When is the first memory where you remember having anxiety?
Oh gosh, I can tell you, it really is tied to the House of Wax, the real big kind of chest exploding anxiety. I was 11 years old, going on 12. It was April 1971. I went to go see House of Wax. Now, you're far too young to know what House of Wax is, but it was a 3D movie. You wore the glasses, one red, one green, and Vincent Price was in it. And there's a scene where the House of Wax, which is the name of his wax museum, was set on fire. So all of the dummies, they started to melt and their faces started to melt and the glass eyeballs popped out. And this thing happened where it felt as if there was a heat bomb exploding in my chest, and it went down my legs and out to my arms. And my throat constricted, and I felt like there were ants crawling around in all of my joints, and I didn't know what to do. And I just jumped up and I fell over the two guys that I was with and ran out into the lobby. I had no idea what had happened to me. I was in the lobby and I was walking around. I was trying to calm myself down. And the first thing I did was call my mother. And she's like, I thought you were in the movie. I said, oh, I just wanted to call and say hi. She says, hi, get in the movie. And so I thought, oh my God, I can't talk to her. And got an orange soda, and I walked down getting anxious just thinking about it. I was walking in the lobby back and forth trying to calm myself. And I had no idea what this thing was. It was such a physical thing. People think of anxiety, nervousness or something. This was a physical reaction. My body just shorted out. And then I realized I was gone too long and I would raise kind of questions. I went back in, and about 20 minutes later, there's a scene of a guy with a noose around his neck being thrown down an elevator shaft, and he's killed. That was it. I was again out there. And for the rest of the movie, I just kept my eyes closed. And I thought it would go away, and it didn't go away for months and months and months. This anxiety, this panic.
That level and severity didn't go away.
No. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. My grades in school plummeted. I remember, it's still very hard to think of this, but I remember lying in bed in the mornings. My mom and dad would get up very early. And it would be at 4:30 in the morning, I would hear them get up, and I would lie there until 7:30, so they wouldn't think anything was wrong with me. And the panic and the anxiety and the almost like a restless leg syndrome, having to move, and trying to make it all seem normal, and then getting up, really not eating that much, going to school, and walking through school as if I were looking at life through the wrong end of a telescope. I couldn't touch anybody, I couldn't feel anything, I couldn't really hear anything. And everyone saw that something was wrong with me, but I couldn't tell you what it was. My parents.
Everybody saw that something was wrong with you?
They knew that I wasn't me anymore. I was not me. I was a facsimile of me. I was this automaton of myself. And
why didn't they do anything?
This is the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. Back then, this is now 1971, where I grew up, you don't know how to fix something like this. Now, my parents talked to me endlessly. We did talk to the priest, which of course, so the priest is like, you go to the priest for everything. Nothing happened. We went to the family doctor, and his answer was, I'll give you Valium. And I remember, I was 11 years old. I said, that's Judy Garland drugs. I'm not taking that. I was obviously queer back then.
I was going to say, I was like, so they knew you were gay.
An 11-year-old, Judy Garland drugs.
But most gay 11-year-olds will be like, give him over. Judy Garland takes it, I'm in. Okay.
And my father was like, no, we're not going to do this. Yeah. And they talked to me and talked to me and talked to me, and they tried so hard to help. And then I remember the moment where I felt as if the cord let go and I was falling through this pit, this bottomless pit, when my father sat me down. He says, son, we've tried very hard. And he had tried for months. He says, everybody has to cope with something, and you have to cope with this. And I just felt like I was like And remember Hal, when he cut the cord in 2001 and the astronauts just going through space? That's what I felt like. I was just completely, nobody could help. Nobody could help. They didn't know what was going on.
It's like asking someone to cope with something that you can't cope with.
Yeah, and you don't know what it is in order to cope.
Right.
You know, you have no tools to cope. And eventually it did go away, almost magically went away. And what I realize now, looking back, I was suffering from anxiety and a lot of depression.
Yeah.
And it just magically went away, like over the course of several days and many months later, and I was perfectly fine again. And
now, when you say perfectly fine, was it back to normal, or was that a manic episode?
Back to normal.
Back to normal.
Back to normal. I was able to have a great summer that summer, because that happened in April. This was like by June or July, I was fine. Had a great time that summer, enjoyed myself, enjoyed being with my grandparents who were one town over, enjoying being friends. Went on scavenger hunts and did all kinds of stuff. It was wonderful. And then it happened again at a movie, The Poseidon Adventure, in January of 1973, I think. It's amazing how you can remember certain dates. And it happened all over again. Instead of visiting me for just 2 months or so, this stayed for 2 years. 2 full years.
Was it the movie that did this?
No, not at all. The movie was just a trigger. It could be anything. For everyone's trigger's different. And for me, I think that there was a lot of psychological aspects. When you're seeing The House of Wax, you're seeing a woman and you're seeing a man being killed, you know, the fear of your parents being killed, the desire to want to kill your parents that you can't really deal with, you know, with that young age, and all the hostility you may have and rage. I think that kind of clicked it off, but it was like ripping a scab off, but what was underneath was so infected that it just didn't stop. So it ripped off the layer of everything that was kind of tamping it down, and I just exposed everything. So
you were having feelings of wanting to kill your parents?
Well, you know, just that general rage you have at your parents or your brother or something like that. I'm not saying that I have moments that I remember wanting anything like that, but just the idea of like this unbidden rage that you have.
Yes.
And that's the reason why I say this, is because the first psychiatrist that we did see, when I threatened my parents that I would kill myself if I didn't see one, which was a hollow threat, but I needed to get out of the house to see one. In the report, which I got as an adult, said that it was basically the manifestation of just his adolescent rage, is what that movie represented. And,
wow.
You know, but I mean, you can't tell an adolescent that.
Well, I've done a lot of these interviews with both doctors and patients, and there's a reoccurring theme that I have found with people who are successful, and that is the ability, the insight to be an advocate for yourself.
Yes.
And even at this very young age, you advocated for yourself by this hollow threat to your parents saying, if you don't take me to see a psychiatrist, I'm going to kill myself.
Yes.
They took you, and after that psychiatry appointment, that first one, or it was a psychology appointment, I think.
That was a psychologist, the first one.
Yeah, the psychology appointment. You said this in your book: although neither of us was aware of it at the time, that afternoon, a divide that had been slowly... You write so beautifully and use so many beautiful words that I have problem pronouncing. Slowly cleaving our world in two was complete. I had turned from the closed, humid huddle of our family and instead chosen the white, fluorescent lit environment of the hospital, a place filled with strangers who were not Portuguese, for relief. That day proved I was different and perhaps even wiser than them all, because only I understood that my chances lay outside of the home my father built, of the embrace of my parents. I could have never left my parents like that.
It wasn't easy. It was the idea of what you are, Barbara Walters, making me cry. They didn't understand. They come from very simple backgrounds and stocks. They just didn't know. And if I were to survive, I knew that I had to do it. And it wasn't turning my back on my parents, but it's basically saying, you can't help me. And that is probably the worst thing you can say to a parent when you're a child. You cannot help me. And they couldn't. They just didn't know what to do. And I've spent years learning how to forgive them for not even their shortcomings, just for who they are.
Yeah.
It wasn't perpetrated. They didn't do this purposely.
No.
But if I didn't turn to the doctors, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
was too much pain for one child to bear.
Yeah.
It's a truckload size of pain that you're putting into a Tonka toy. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much pain.
The metaphors you use really describe what it's like to suffer in depression or a bipolar state or anxiety. And our producer Bridget said it was the best explanation she's ever had on what depression and anxiety is like. It was so clear. At the very start of Notes on a Banana by David Leite, our guest today, he says, early onset, a clinical term used for when manic depressive disorder first appears early in life. For a long time, doctors believed children couldn't suffer from mood swings of the illness. Dumbasses. You have this way to find so much humor with your journey. And I feel like most people would be presented with the obstacles you were presented with and cower.
Right.
Why did you end up succeeding?
I think partly because I have that sense of humor. I got it from my mother, especially. It's her brand of humor. But I think if you don't have humor, you are really in deep doo-doo, because humor is what gets you through so many things.
Yes.
And it's the capacity, it's almost a capacity for empathy, because you can laugh at yourself and then you can let others sort of kind of in by that laughter.
Right.
And it really is almost a way of socially reaching out if you're having an issue. You can socially reach out through laughter.
Yes, yeah. Now, you ended up in Carnegie Mellon. Do you say Carnegie or Carnegie?
They say in Pittsburgh, Carnegie. I say Carnegie.
Okay. I'll probably switch back and forth.
That's all right.
Can you describe what your transition to Carnegie Mellon was like in terms of how it affected your mental health?
Sure. I come from Rochester Institute of Technology, where I studied art. And I decided to go for 2 years opposed to a 4-year degree, so I could go to Carnegie Mellon. When I got to Carnegie Mellon, I was so thrilled to have gotten in there, because it's very, very tough. It's very competitive. And I got in, and what happened for me, and I only can see it in retrospect, is they put you on this track that is so difficult. And for me, it's what basically cracked me, where you have classes starting at 8 in the morning. Remember, we had voice and speech in our sophomore year, 8 in the morning. And you take classes and workshops until about 5 in the afternoon, 5:30. You have an hour for dinner, and then you go and you do crew, which was 3 hours of building sets, making costumes or running shows for the upperclassmen. Then when you're done at about 11 o'clock or 11:30, that's when you do your work. And then you finish your work, and between 1 and 2 in the morning, you take the local bus or take the shuttle back home, and you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And young kids can do those kind of things, but what happened for me, and I think a lot of people who suffer from manic depression, sleep is very important. And I was losing it every day, a little bit at a time. Every night I was losing sleep, to the point where I ended up the year doing phenomenally well, on top of the world. I was definitely manic. I mean, I was having these incredible, fantastic fantasies of who I was. And then I crashed about later that summer when I was teaching at a summer camp. I just crashed.
What does having a manic episode feel like?
My normal ones are, I have hypomania, so it's not bad. I'm much more creative. I'm much more loquacious. It's when you really want to come to our house for dinner, because I'm a fabulous host, and you're going to enjoy yourself tremendously.
By the way, okay. I already know this, because the first time I met you was at a dinner.
Yes.
Okay, and if you don't want to have us put out there, we'll edit it out. But he comes and sits at the table. We're all seated. David walks in. Hello, I'm David. I was like, oh, I'm Kyle. And he goes, great. What mental health disorder do you have? And I go, oh, this will be a fun 3 hours.
There you go.
Yeah. So we all went around the table and shared our mental health disorder. So yes, you are a great host, but continue on.
And so there's loquaciousness, there's a lot of sociability, and I make connections that I don't normally make. It's sort of, you realize, oh my God, that's a great idea. Oh wow, you put this and this together, you get that. That's kind of where most of my mania, I think it's a very enviable mania for most people in the creative world. But in the Carnegie Mellon one, it had gone on for so long. I will never forget this. It's the only time that I think I had went out of that realm, out of the spotlight of kind of hypomania to something else. But I was writing about wanting to make this movie in Carnegie Mellon, like where I was going to get the money. I had no idea. I was going to adapt an F. Scott Fitzgerald short story. And I'm writing, and I just keep writing so fast. I can't keep up with myself. And these words are coming out, and then something exploded, and I felt this light just kind of come down and fill my body with so much bright, wonderful white light. And it was as if you're looking at my fingers, I could see the light shining in my fingers. I could see my bones, and my whole body was a tingle, and it was just extraordinary. I felt no one could ever think the way that I'm thinking. I am plugged right into God. I have a direct line to God, you know? And I walked home, and it kind of diminished and kind of went, it became more manageable. But I talk about the book where I'd be walking down the street on Fifth Avenue in Pittsburgh, and I called it kind of alighting and gliding and sliding. I felt as if I was walking on air. I just was like this incredible, like imagine cross-country skiing, but on air. It just, nothing could touch me. And it is magnificently addictive.
And you weren't using drugs?
No.
You weren't abusing any substances?
No. And I remember that I went to, I think it's called the Giant Eagle, the supermarket there. And I felt such incredible empathy for the woman at the register. I just could connect with her in a way that no customers ever connected. And I was connected to the earth and to the birds and the bees. And there was a fly bouncing against the wall. And I thought I understood the fly. It's an extraordinary feeling. I have to say, it really is. But man, you can't sustain that. And the crash after that was a pretty big.
Now, are you sleeping during this time?
No. I was getting 2 to 3 hours a night, if that much.
And you didn't need it though.
No, because what happened was I was on this treadmill of just energy, and there was so much to do. And I was keeping up with my classmates, but they don't have mental illness. I don't think any of them did. So they weren't having the same reaction that I did. And then I had this spectacular, incredible plunge into horrible depression.
Let's pause on the depression part. Also during this time, you are really coming to terms, it felt like from reading it, with your sexuality. Yes. and finding romance or interactions with men. Tell me about that.
When I went to Carnegie Mellon, I was 100% absolutely sure that I was gay. It was the Barry Manilow situation that you realize you come out of the closet. And
did you say it was a Barry Manilow situation?
It's a Barry Manilow situation. You can't take
That's going to be
gay.
My code now from now on. I go, he's got a Barry Manilow situation over there.
You can't take being gay back, and you can't take back being a Barry Manilow fan. That's just out there in the universe, and you never can take it back. So I went to Carnegie Mellon, and I was rainbow-colored gay. I was so happy. I was looking for a man. And what do I find? But I find Bridget Orloff. And that's not her real name, but first day, first class, I'm sitting here, teacher's sitting there, and she's sitting right there. And when she spoke, I don't know what happened, but it was like, who are you and where did you come from? And I wanted to just connect with her, and she was rebuffing me time after time. And it was finally about 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, we were in a class on the Kresge stage, which is the main stage. They've changed the name, but that was the main stage at Carnegie. And we were having some class, and this guy, he said, my name is something, something, and it's 2 L's, his last name had 2 L's. Yeah. And so everybody laughed. I looked at her, and so I went up to her and I said, hey, my name is David Leite. Do you want to have dinner? That's dinner with 2 N's. So she totally cracked up. Yeah. And we had dinner, and we became friends. And then I just fell head over heels in love with her.
Here's what I don't understand. I am a gay man. I have never fallen in love with a woman.
Oh my God. I did. She was extraordinary. We're still very close. She's an extraordinary woman.
And you were physically attracted to her?
No.
No.
I just thought it would come. I just thought that
Yes, if you
That's
will,
how it happens.
Right.
Yeah, it's just you fall in love and then the other stuff comes.
Because even though you were 100% gay, there was still a side of you that was like, oh, if I was straight, this would be a lot easier.
So much easier, right? I mean, I think all of us at that age would think, so much. There were no real good role models at that point.
Well, especially that time.
Yes, there was none back there. No role models, no way of saying this is what it looks like. And so I just thought in time I would just become sexually attracted to her, and it just really over 2 years never did.
Yeah.
But we got so intensely entwined with each other. And still to this day, she's one of the people who I just do these mind melds with. It's an extraordinary friendship.
We all need someone like that. We all need a Bridget.
Yeah, we do need a Bridget.
If you don't have one, you got to get one. That's your homework. Go get a Bridget, because that type of connection is so intoxicating, and it makes your life better.
It does. It does. I mean, and I've had that really with only her, that kind of incredible meld. And she fell in love with me. She was, I believe, sexually attracted to me, but it wasn't returning. And it just wore on her. And I just kept on saying, I promise I will. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. And it never happened.
Yeah. Now, there was something that I had no plan on bringing up with you. But I had an incident at the airport on my way here to interview you, and I thought, well, now I'm definitely bringing this up.
Okay.
You had an instance with Mr. Good when you were a child.
Yes, I did.
Would you share that?
Yes. Mr. Good was a neighbor of ours 2 houses down, and he was a pedophile. And I didn't know that. And I remember I was with his son, Dami, and some other kids, and we were playing, and he was so belittling to Dami. It was just amazing to me how he could just insult him and put him down. And then I don't know how I ended up near him, but he had the business end of a bat, a plastic bat, and he kind of waggled it at me, and he said, "It's that long." And I'm like, "What?"
And how old were you?
About 8 years old.
8 years old.
About 8 years old. So I'm like, I know what he's talking about. So I was playing, but he kept on staring at me, and I thought, why is he staring at me? And then he got me into the basement. He wanted to show me something, and he brought me down to the basement, and I was waiting. And at the same time, I kind of knew what was happening, and I was curious, but I didn't understand the severity of what was happening. And so when he came back down, he had a child porn magazine. This is sick. In the 60s, it was a child pornography magazine. And I was really kind of freaked out about that. And then he took himself out and he wanted me to hold it. And I'm like, all right, wait a minute. And I said to him, I don't know where I got the smarts. I said, Mr. Good, I really, really want to do this. But I got to make sure my father's van is not there, because if it is, I'm going to be in trouble. He says, go ahead, hurry up. I remember him at the base of the stairs, his pants around his ankles. And I said, I'll be right back. I had no intention of coming back. My father's van wasn't there, and I ran home. And then I saw him again, and it's not in the book, but he was being very seductive again. Then another time I went over, a little while later, to play with Dami, and he said, oh, he's out with Mrs. Good. Why don't you come in? And when I did, there was another man there. And they had all these beer bottles were between them, and they were drunk. And he says, do you want to go into the bedroom and wait for them? We can watch TV. Again, where I get these things, I have no idea. I said, Mr. Good, my mother wants me to tell you, tread lightly. My mother never said that, but she says tread lightly.
Because you never told anybody about this.
No. But I knew what he was up to. And then the look on his face was so shocking, so shocked. The other guy just immediately ran out the front door, grabbed his cigarettes, ran out the front door, jumped in his truck. And I was not even out the door when he had taken off. And he never bothered me again. And what's not in the book is I found out that our other next door neighbor, his 2 nephews, sexually abused both of them. And one of them to the point that he got into a terrible car accident, became an alcoholic. And his sister is convinced it's because of what happened to him, because he just went after him, and there was another guy in the neighborhood, and he was known to be a pervert. He's dead now.
Good. Why didn't you tell anybody?
I didn't tell my father, because my father, talk about Vanetta, My father's a very good man, and my father's a very logical man. My father would have taken that baseball bat that was behind the door, and he would have killed him. And I knew that I couldn't risk losing my father. And see, the thing is, again, with the bipolar, what was manifesting as bipolar and anxiety back then, they didn't know how to deal with. They wouldn't know how to deal with something like this. This would be, with me, they just didn't know what to do with this. There was only one solution, which was to attack this man. And somehow I just had it in my head that you don't do that. I did tell them many, many, many years later. My father said it's a good thing that he's dead.
How old were you?
I was in my late teens. And he said it's a good thing he is dead.
This is why your incidents with Mr. Good is not what made you gay.
Not at all, but I thought it was. I thought I had the good curse, which was I was going to end up as some pathetic man with his pants around his ankles, trying to seduce young children. That's what I thought being gay was. It's the only thing that I had.
When did you finally come to terms with your sexuality?
Was, oddly enough, when I was with Bridget.
Really?
Yes. I have really bad timing. I have terrible timing.
Poor Bridget is out there.
Bridget. Yeah. I adore the woman so much. I love her. But I brought Bridget to meet my parents. And because what happened was after Carnegie Mellon, when I was flying high, I had terrible, terrible panic attacks that summer. As both of us were camp counselors, and fell into this depressive anxiety state. So she came to visit, and I was walking down the lane with my father, down to the farm fields where I used to pick cabbages. And I said, "Daddy, I need to tell you something." He says, "What's that, son?" I said, I'm gay." And he stopped, and I remember so clearly him going, but Bridget. I said, "Daddy, it's complicated. It's really complicated." And it was another one of those epic parental fails that I think is so hard to avoid. His answer after that was, "Don't tell your mother." So again, it's like this idea of hiding in shame. Don't tell your mother. And that's when I told him that I was gay, and then I still was with Bridget for a while, but then she broke up with me, understandably, went with the man she married. And I got involved with this cult that changes gay men straight. Aesthetic realism. Yay, aesthetic realism. And the final straw was at a meeting there when I was just being attacked by these two women verbally. That I went, I would much rather be a raging, flaming queer than be part of this organization. I'm proud of who I am. And I walked out and I never went back. And that's when
you started listening to Barry Manilow again.
I started listening to Barry Manilow again. I just embraced my inner gay again. Yeah. But that cult was another one of those excruciating things that I went through.
In our next session, we'll talk about that cult. But before you dropped out of Carnegie Mellon, you went into this depressive episode.
Terrible, yes.
We understand a little bit more what that manic episode feels like, but what does a depressive episode feel like?
For me, it's always tinged with anxiety. It's sort of, it's imbued with anxiety. That's my particular brand of depression, but it's the idea of getting out of bed is so frightening, and standing up and facing the world is so frightening that I could barely do it. I did do it. I never was one of those people who stayed in bed for weeks and days or weeks at a time. I didn't. I always got up. But it's that walking through life, through looking at life through the wrong end of a telescope, everything was so distant. I would hear myself talk. I would hear. It's almost as if I were narrating my own life, and the camera was out here, and I was the voiceover for my own life. I couldn't grab onto things. It's a very visceral thing for me when you're in your body and you're here. You can touch and you can talk. I wasn't in my body. I was always here.
And how old were you?
I was 21 or 22, and I remember failing spectacularly. When I went back to school, we had this teacher, Angela D'Ambrosia, and Janet and I were kind of her favorites. And I was so excited. I thought we were going to be these big stars. But when I went back, I'd already had the terrible depression and anxiety in the summer, and it destroyed everything. And so I went from being one of the top, at least grade-wise, to getting a C. And by the end of it, she was just disgusted with me. So she transferred me out of her section, which I was so grateful for. And then the teacher, who I was going to have went on sabbatical, I ended up getting her again. First time up in front of her, I was doing a scene, a Chekhov scene, And I wasn't in my body. I just wasn't there, and I wasn't listening to my partner. And a couple of laughs happened, and I just very quietly looked over at her, and I could see her just put her pen down. Just the disgusted look on her face. And her favorite line is, "That is caca. That's caca." And so when I was done, she said, "You know, David, that is just caca." And when she was done ripping us apart, everybody was leaving, and I said, "You know, Angela, I think I'm going to take a leave of absence." She said, "You know, I think you should." And then she said, "And for God's sake, leave that girl alone and come out of the closet." This is a teacher saying this to me. I was beside myself. I didn't know what to do. I stood there when the new class came in. I felt like I was wrapped in cotton batting. I didn't know what to do. And so the rest of that time, for a year or two, I just floated through life. There was no Velcro in my life. I couldn't stick to anything. And I was just going through the motions of life.
If you like psychology and learning about mental health and want to learn more while meeting other people who are interested, explore your membership options using the link below this video or visit medcircle.com.
How did you come to the realization that you needed or wanted to drop out?
Because my performance at Carnegie Mellon was so bad. I just couldn't think. All the creativity that was there in freshman year and the excitement and the joy that was there was completely gone. It was nothing but fear that I was going to fail, fear of displeasing Angela, the teacher, and I just couldn't function. I had lost a lot of weight. I looked fabulous when I went back for second year, but it didn't mean anything to me because I was so depressed, and I started gaining.
But you didn't know you were depressed.
That's the thing no one understands. I did not know that I was depressed.
Right. I understand that. I understand that completely. If you would have known you were depressed, if somebody would have helped you with that education.
Like Tinkerbell came and said, "You're depressed."
Yes, and you believed it.
Right.
Do you think you would have stayed in school?
Yes, I think I would have gone immediately to a doctor and gotten pills. Or whatever you need to do, you know. But how is it doctor after doctor after doctor never picked up on depression or bipolar?
Well, not then, but they did later.
I was the one who told my doctor that I have bipolar.
Bipolar, right.
I'm the one who diagnosed myself.
But even when they were telling you you're depressed, you were saying, "No, I'm not."
Oh yeah, when that doctor was the first one to say I'm depressed, and I'm like, "No, I'm not."
Right.
I didn't know what depression was.
Right.
And also in my family, you don't have those kind of issues.
Right.
And so anxiety is one thing, but depression, oh my God, that's the D word. We don't talk about depression. So, you know, many people who don't suffer from it don't understand how I didn't understand that I had it. You deny.
I understand why you don't know that.
Yeah.
Not to your level in the book, you talk about almost screaming matches you're having with your therapist. Yeah. "I'm not depressed," and your therapist saying, "Yes, you are."
Yeah.
I've had moments of those in therapy for myself.
Yeah.
Where I go, "This isn't a depression thing," and they're like, "Yes, it is, Kyle." And I go, and whatever. But it was kind of, I don't want to use the word blessing that you dropped out, but it did shove you back into your love of food, which you had had your entire life. What was it like dropping out, being depressed but not realizing it, and then discovering cooking?
There was incredible shame when I dropped out. So much shame that I actually avoided everybody. I didn't go to the shows anymore that my friends were in. I knew where people lived in my neighborhood, so I went on different streets to avoid them. And so then I don't recall, and I say this in the book, I don't recall how I got the job, but I ended up being a cook, a private cook for one of the teachers at Carnegie Mellon University. And the thing about him and his family is they were marvelously disheveled people, and they were massive intellects. And I say when you go in, that the house was just a disaster, and it smelled of Fritos, which is the smell in my mind of dog's paws. Yes, they smell like Fritos. And I thought, oh my God, there's a dog here. And all I had to do was make a meal, leave it on the stove or in the fridge with instructions on how to reheat. They would shop, I would have to clean, and that's all I had to do. And it stitched me back together because my whole day was just, for the longest time, I was on Carnegie Mellon time. I knew I'd wake up and I'd go, oh, they're in voice and speech class. Oh, they're in movement class. Oh, they're taking acting class. I couldn't get off of the Carnegie Mellon clock. And then when I went there at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, time went away. And I was just focused on the simplest little things. I remember the big thing is he loved chicken with a mustard sauce, I believe is what it was. He and his wife loved it. And I made stewy kind of things. Even though it was like warm weather, I made stewy things because it was easier to reheat. And the act of chopping and slicing and sauteing, and I talk about how taking a chunk of butter and just watching it kind of slump to the side as it heats and melts. It was a restorative thing. It was almost a meditative act for me. And the thing that I think was a saving grace, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but when you cook, you've made something that didn't exist an hour ago. The idea to bring something to fruition, to bring something into the world that didn't exist is such a miracle. And to me, that's what cooking and writing and creating all are. And it made me feel as if I had a bit of a purpose, that I'm not useless. I did something. You know, it's almost like saying, Mom, look what I did. Look, Mom, you know, when you're a kid. And it, in a certain sense, saved me. I didn't know back then it was saving me, but it did save me.
That was my question. You know, what you're describing, I have coined as forced mindfulness. I think in any mental health journey, we are looking to be more mindful as a way to improve our lives. But it's hard to be mindful.
Very hard.
Because it's easier to just watch TV and, you know, be mindless. But when you do something like cooking, where you can't be thinking about all your problems while you're getting that perfect sear or whatever it is. I'm not a cook. You will see later how I am not a cook or a chef, even though I've worked in restaurants. But it's that forced mindfulness, which brings you peace even when you don't realize it is.
Yes.
Yeah. What besides cooking do you use to be mindful and feel better?
I can't say that my repertoire is very big when it comes to this. I'm very bad at that. I meditate a little bit, but not a lot. Cooking is really big for me. Sometimes losing myself in a book. I think if it's a good book, you can focus on it. And another thing, though, that does bring me very centered is my cat, Rory. Animals are extraordinary.
No question.
You know, and I think they bring out the best in who we are.
All the time.
The best.
Well, and I would also argue that sometimes they just bring out more of who you are.
Yes.
And that can be good or bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
But to see the pure joy he takes in things gets me out of myself. And I'm like, man, you know, you got it made. You got your food, you got your shelter, you got people taking care of you.
Yeah.
You got it made. And sometimes he likes to sit on, he has a bed on my desk, and to watch him sleep, and he puts his arm over his eyes because he doesn't like the light bothering him.
Excuse you,
Me
Rory.
up.
Yeah.
And so it's, he can bring me a lot of joy and he grounds me.
I love that. Yeah. Why did you end up quitting this cooking job?
Because I needed money. I got to the point.
Okay, please.
Reality was knocking.
Even people with undiagnosed bipolar need money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I needed money, and I told him, and he wanted to keep me, but they couldn't pay me more. And it was so sad when I left. There was a sense of, it was a real loss. I honestly knew none of the children. I think I met his wife once, but the idea that I was in their world and I saw what they read and all the games they played, because they played lots of board games, and I would see what was on the table, and I had to like set the table for them. It was eavesdropping on a life and eavesdropping on a world. And so I was able to fantasize so much of what that family was like, and it sustained me. It really did sustain me, but I needed money.
Yeah, I get that. Most people who move to New York end up getting 10 roommates and 15 jobs, and they love it anyway. Yep. You took a different route and joined a cult.
I did.
And I say that with a smile on my face because
I got nothing else better to do, so I joined a cult.
I don't even, I have so many questions about this.
Sure.
I can't even get to one of them because
I understand.
What is it? Is it around still?
Yes, it is. but they remind me of Shakers. Like Shakers didn't have sex with each other, so they eventually just died out. But these people, they're just, I don't know if they have sex with each other, but truth of the matter is there's so few of them as time goes on that people just are falling away from it. And they no longer do the whole gay thing because they realized that they didn't want to.
Well, they never did the whole gay thing.
They never did. It was never working. But no, I went there and it was very strong at that point. And there were all these guys who wanted to turn straight and women who wanted to help them. And that was one part of what they did. They also had things about art and all these other things. And so I got involved because I thought, when I heard about it, I said, Bridget, this is it. This is how I'm going to do it. It's just a matter of like rearranging a few things and I'm going to be straight. And so she started studying and I started studying, and it never really made sense to me, to be honest with you. And then I remember you have consultation with 3, which is 3 people, and then they just talk to you, and they really
wait. How did you find this place?
Find them. There was a woman we worked with, and she worked in the box office, and we both worked in the box office as work study, and she saw us and she loved us as a couple, and she's like, my brother-in-law is involved with this organization, and he was gay, and now he has a wife and 2 children.
He was gay. Oh, wow.
And I think this might be good for you guys. And so we thought, let's give it a try. And we did. And so she started, I think you have consultations, and I think after her second or third, where you have 3, she had 3 women, I had 3 men. She's not trying to change, she's trying to help me change. She wanted to go to Europe that summer to get away and enjoy herself. And they're like, don't you think you should stay here and help Mr. Leite change? And she's like, hell no.
Good for her.
They're like, no, you think you should. And she said, I'm not going to. And so Bridget went off to Europe and she never studied again. I am the idiot who just kept on studying, trying. I dragged other people from Carnegie Mellon into it.
But how do you try to be straight?
It's a very long, complicated process about how you see the world.
And real quick, for the people watching this who aren't gay,
right?
This has got to be a kind of a bizarre conversation, I think.
Yeah.
But it'd be no different than you attending classes and them trying to help you have sex with your same gender.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. Like you've got to be attracted to this gender and be in a relationship with your same gender because that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yes, and that would be that would be an analogous situation. So they want you to understand that respect in the world. You have contempt and you have respect, and I'm really probably not doing them justice the way I'm describing it. But the whole thing is that all these men, after all this studying, were like suddenly just attracted to women, and I'm like, it ain't happening to me. And I'd see them bound down the stairs from the upstairs where they had these consultations, and they're pairing off, and I'm going, it ain't happening. What's going on? And it was for a Thursday night meeting or group presentation, and this one woman came after me. I think she was Argentinian or Chilean or something like that. And she went after me about, you're not being respectful of Eli Siegel and aesthetic realism. And
Eli Siegel is their...
He's their founder. He's their Jesus.
Yes.
And he's dead now. And she went after me. And then another woman went after me. It was like stereo, all this criticism. Because you criticize with love. And that's how you kind of understand yourself.
But what were they criticizing you for?
Just that I was being disrespectful. I wasn't changing. I was disrespecting women.
But why? How?
By not changing, that I hadn't changed yet. I hadn't changed. And they were going at me. And I really just imagined myself vomiting all over them. And vomiting all over them, and them just looking down at themselves and going, what is this? And I just thought, I'm out of here. And so when they were done talking, I just turned around and I walked out. And you have to wear a victim of the press pin because I believe they're victims of the press.
Who is?
Aesthetic realism. See, if aesthetic realism was told, if the world knew about aesthetic realism, there would be no more war, there'd be no more crime, there'd be no more homosexuality, and many other things. And I just threw the pin away and I crossed East Houston Street, and I went home, and that was it. I burned every book I had of theirs. I burned every consultation tape. I burned it all and threw it out in the trash, and I just became...
What are consultation tapes?
That's when you have the 3 against 1, and I do say against 1, that's what it feels like. And they're always questioning you. They don't even let you finish. And they ask very leading questions like, Mr. Leite, don't you think the way you were looking at Kyle was rather seductive? Don't you think that was giving him the wrong message, Mr. Leite? Don't you think that? And you're like, well, maybe. I'm not sure. Right. Well, I think you were. So the next thing you know, you're hearing these things, and you start losing perspective, your own perspective. And Bridget was great because she just got up and left. She's like, I wasn't going to put up with this, and I did.
But why do you think some men
are drawn to that?
I understand why people are drawn to it. Because if you, in that time period, and when you're experiencing the mental health issues you were experiencing, and this is an answer for everything to be right, I get that. Like, sign me up, right?
Yeah.
What I don't understand is how someone can say, yes, this worked, and now I'm going to marry a woman.
Yeah, and some of them did. My friend's brother-in-law is still married to his wife. Children are in the mid-30s. She's a painter. They still study aesthetic realism. But the thing is, many of the people who I was colleagues with or students with all went to being gay. All just like flip back. A lot of the teachers flip back. I mean,
so they had their moment of, oh, I'm going to be a heterosexual, and then they eventually went back to being gay.
Yeah.
Besides that one guy.
Yeah, except that one guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's interesting. And the thing is, it took probably 3 years to unthread the tight craziness that was in my head about them. Long time to undo it.
And meanwhile, you're still suffering with these episodes of depression and anxiety, and still having manic episodes.
Hypomanic. Yeah.
Hypomanic.
And the thing that's interesting is that it was a process of elimination, which I talk about. The book is about acceptance. Is that I crossed off. Okay, so these feelings I have nothing to do with being Portuguese, because I had kind of embraced my Portuguese heritage. I'm gay now, so that should stop. Well, it didn't stop. So obviously, it wasn't being gay is the issue. And not accepting it. So I had nothing left. I had nothing up my sleeve, nothing that could possibly be causing this.
What was happening in your therapy sessions at the time?
By this point, I was with David Lindsay Griffin, the therapist in the book, and I was starting to make a lot of progress. And the mental illness, the bipolar, just kind of dissipated. I was really on a fast track. I was doing really well. I got involved in advertising. I became an advertising copywriter and worked my way up to a really, a very senior position with a great salary. And I thought I just matured. It was 13 years between the last massive breakdown and the next one that was coming up that I did not see.
And what were the ages?
20, 21, and then a mini one at 28, and then mid-30s, about 35. And that 35 one was the one where I had the most to lose. I'd been in a relationship for several years.
With a man.
With a man. Mm-hmm. The one, Alan Dunkelberger, whom I call the one. I had a home. I had a home in the country. I had a very high-paying job. I had belongings. I was an adult. I had so much to lose, and it was the worst out of all of them.
It was the worst breakdown.
Worst breakdown, yeah.
You kept getting this diagnosis of depression.
Yeah.
With mixed anxiety features.
Yeah, with mixed features, yeah.
And it was always the wrong one.
Always. I was not depressed. I'm not depressed. I remember saying that to my shrink. You tell me, how many depressed people do you know have a 6-figure salary, have got a husband, have got a house, great with animals, very creative? I'm not depressed. I was depressed. I denied it.
You were in denial. The most powerful force in the world, I think, is hope. Mm-hmm. And then the second one is denial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the opposite sides of the same coin.
Yes.
I had such denial about the whole situation. And he had to hammer away. And he didn't give up. He just kind of let me have my belief. And then when I really fell apart, and he pulled out his notes from the first week.
That's right.
Saying that he felt I was depressed. And it didn't make any sense, because I thought, I have so much anxiety. That's when he explained you can have depression with anxiety. But bipolar wasn't fitting in. No.
Was it a sign of the times or something else?
That it didn't fit in?
Yes, that it boggles my mind, because maybe it's because I know you, and I knew you had bipolar before I opened the book. But it was so clear reading this, this guy is bipolar.
Right.
How did no one see this? How did it get missed?
I think a lot of it is sort of shoved off to, he's artistic, he's creative. Creative people are kind of crazy. He's just creative. And so I think a lot of it went to that. Oh, he's Portuguese. They're like nuts and big and loud and, emotional and moody.
And the gay thing too is, they're an artsy gay person.
Big drama queen.
Yeah.
So there was always something to sort of shove it off to. And because I think no one really, at least the people that I saw, knew high functioning bipolar people. They just didn't know that. My shrink said to me, I have worked with bipolar people for years. He said, you're not bipolar. And I said, I am. He says, you're going to have to prove it to me. Mm-hmm. So I read Kay Redfield Jamison's incredible book, An Unquiet Mind. And in the introduction, I saw myself. Mm-hmm. And while she had bipolar 1, I have bipolar 2, which is a milder form or a lesser form. I understood it. So then I just hightailed my ass uptown and to a friend of mine who's a psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. I said, I don't want to see you, just diagnose me. Mm-hmm. What is it? Very, very long diagnosis. And it was very hard because it got into very personal things.
And this was someone you knew.
And someone I knew. And I didn't want to tell those details to, but I felt I should. And he diagnosed me as bipolar 2. And then I went to another person and he diagnosed me as bipolar 2. And I figured, well, if 2 out of 2 doctors are saying this, I have to have bipolar. And I went back and my therapist apologized. He said that I didn't see it. He said, you don't present that way. You're too articulate, you're too on top of things, you're too successful for me to have seen it. And it was my slip, and I do apologize and hope we can continue working together. Mm-hmm. And we did. It wasn't his strong suit. It wasn't his strong suit. And
he wasn't a psychiatrist.
No, he was a social worker,
and
therapist.
Obviously, we love psychologists. We have them on MedCircle all the time. But when it comes to bipolar, that requires medication.
It does.
And a psychiatrist can provide that medication. Yeah. I interviewed a woman named Sammy Grimm. She is in her 20s. Mm-hmm. But she kept getting diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Mm-hmm. And she's going, I don't think this is me, and getting put on heavy drugs for it.
Right.
So she had the reverse of you.
Yes.
They're saying, you have bipolar, and she goes, I don't think I do. She really had borderline personality disorder.
Yep.
So the reason I bring this up is that she advocated for herself and found the right diagnosis, which puts you on the right treatment, which gets you the right life.
Yes.
You advocated for yourself over and over again, from the age of 11 to your 35-year-old.
35, 36,
right?
Yeah.
Your whole life, you have to keep advocating for yourself. Mm-hmm. Kevin Hines, I interviewed, oh my gosh, advocates for himself every day. Mm-hmm. Patients cannot rely on anybody.
No.
You can have support. Mm-hmm. You can get an education. That's why you're watching MedCircle. But at the end of the day,
That's right.
recovered you.
No one knows me better than me.
Yes.
And when I've had some doctors who I felt being shoved, I felt I was being squeezed into certain parts. One doctor wanted to say, well, you have psychotic features. And I'm like, well, screw you, I do not.
Yeah.
He said, well, you had that one episode. I said, that does not make me psychotic.
Yeah.
It makes me really a narcissist, but maybe, but not psychotic. Yeah. And I do think that you've got to, even other things that have happened with me, I have Lyme disease, I diagnosed myself and I advocated for myself. And I think you have to do with every single doctor you have, because they do the best they can, but they are not inside of you.
No.
They cannot.
And this is not an attack on doctors.
No.
This is just the reality.
Doctors have saved my life.
Yeah.
But they cannot experience what you experience.
And the reason I'm asking this question is not to promote MedCircle. You're already watching the series. I'm asking this from a really curiosity standpoint. If you had access to MedCircle when you were in college, how do you think your life would have changed?
It's interesting because I do love the series and I've watched many of the episodes. Something like this would have been the equivalent of seeing a healthy gay man back then. They were very hard to find, but occasionally you would find someone who was living the life that you wanted, but just happened to be gay. Mm-hmm. It would show me that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I think it would have truncated the pain. Don't forget, because I was 22. I was 35 when I was diagnosed. That is 13 years. I could have truncated 13 years of my life.
Pivotal 13 years.
Yes, exactly. Which is big money-making years, relationship years, understanding who you are. All that stuff that normal people do, they were being put off because I had this other thing on top that was really weighing down, and that was where all the energy was. So I think I would have shortcut a lot of that had I had those kind of resources, and if I had someone who pointed me in that direction.
Absolutely.
If you're looking for expert guidance and community support on your mental health journey, consider a MedCircle membership. Explore your membership options using the link below this video or visit medcircle.com.
Now you talk about, it seems like every therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist that you could have been to in your life.
I did.
Okay, and you did. Okay.
Yep.
You mentioned one of them multiple times, and I got the feeling that you have such a dislike for this person.
Kim of the Eames chair? Kim of the Eames chair.
He is going after this woman.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it seemed kind of fair.
But she would sit there and then no emotion in that chair of hers, and she was so freaking Freudian.
By the way, anytime somebody mentions an obscure fact, like, and that chair of hers,
right.
like, you know that you are upset.
The contempt is just dripping
just
out
like,
of
and then
off
she
my
just opened that
tongue.
door, like,
exactly. And she would, I'll never forget when I was really freaking out, and I called her.
Right.
And I remember saying, maybe I need to be hospitalized. Do you want to be hospitalized? Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh my God, if I say yes, I'm voluntarily going in. I can't voluntarily get out. And I said, we'll talk about it next time. And I hung up on her. But it was always this, and what do you think? And why do you think that? Mm-hmm. And it was never, I've had therapists where there's a nice relationship. Mm-hmm. I know nothing about their lives, but there's this real simpatico, like my therapist now, I love her. This one, I mean, she was a rock in that chair. There was nothing to play off of.
And how long did you work with her?
Oh, I'm stupid. Probably 2 years. I mean, I just, I give people long chances.
Yeah, but you're not stupid. We all do that. I had a therapist I've shared on here who I was with him for 2.5 years. He fell asleep. I'd say 50% of our sessions he would fall asleep and then wake himself up.
And did he wake up and say, so who else do you put to sleep? That's Anna Freud's famous line. So who else do you put to sleep with what you say?
No, I would have respected him if he said that. Or if I would have said that. So Kim is not her real name, though?
No, not at all. Kim of the Eames chair, no.
Okay. But what you disliked about her was you did not feel that rapport with the therapist.
No, I didn't feel safe in that environment, looking back now.
And guys, this is important because don't make the same mistake he did. Don't spend 2 years with someone who doesn't make you feel comfortable.
No. And it was always, I never saw that I was moving. There was no insight. I don't know, she did insight therapy, but there was no insights that I was finding. Mm-hmm. And I was desperate. I even said, maybe the whole fear of the House of Wax was maybe I was in a past life and I burned to death or something. And instead of trying to explore it, she literally went, there's no such thing as past lives, David.
Done.
So besides feeling belittled and shamed, the door was closed, as opposed to asking, why do you think it's a past life? Or, I was just desperate. I mean, I think she would have discovered that I really desperately wanted an answer. But we never really got anywhere.
Did you feel like she was forcing you into an answer?
I can't even say that. I don't know what she was doing.
Because I remember one point, and I might be jumbling it around, but I thought she wanted you to say the reason you were gay was to get back at your mother.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, that was her. That was Kim of the Eames chair. Yes. She was trying to put things in there. And I'm like, it's a good read into that. I forgot about that. She was coming up with these theories every once in a while. And she was overlaying them. It's sort of like, okay, let's tear it out of the workbook and let's overlay it on him. Kind of fits. Maybe not. Let's take the next one, overlay it on him. As opposed to letting me determine the diagnosis by what I say and what I do.
Yes.
Which is what my shrink now does. She's just brilliant, the one I have.
Right.
Yeah, so it was cold and there wasn't a rapport. I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere, and I didn't have the guts to be able to say, you know what, Kim of the Eames chair, I'm not getting a lot out of this, and you're not really giving me much.
I know, it's so hard to do.
Because they're authority. And the thing you have to realize, when you advocate for yourself, they are an employee.
Okay.
They're an employee.
Thank you. Yes.
And I give you vacation time. And I give your hours, and
here's a real long sabbatical.
Exactly. So you better go and earn your keep.
And all of our MedCircle doctors have said, if a patient told me this isn't working out, I would be happy that they said that.
Yes.
Because that's a sign of self-advocating.
Yes. And it's also the bridge to working.
Yes.
It's when you hear something like that, you then can start, well, what can we do to make this work better?
Yeah.
And I just, yeah.
So you went from Kim, and then did you end up with the other David?
David. I went from Kim, there was Doug in there, which is not in the book. She went on maternity leave. I like Doug a lot.
Okay.
And then from Doug, I was done with therapy. I was cured, whatever it was. I decided I was. And I got it with David Lindsay because I was reading the book called Being Homosexual by Richard Isay. And in the very beginning of that, it's a very small, thin book. It talked about internalized homophobia. And I'm like, what? Gay people can't be homophobic.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, that's what I am. I'm homophobic. And I wanted to find out. So I went to something called the Institute for Human Identity. It doesn't exist anymore. That dealt with the LGBTQ plus community. Of course, there wasn't the Q and the plus back then. Mm-hmm. And they paired me up with David, and who is gay. And so there was that immediate connection. And we had a very good connection. We had a very, very good relationship. And he helped me tremendously.
He seemed wonderful.
He did. He is wonderful.
Did you find value of having a therapist who was also gay?
Yeah.
Would you recommend that people seek out somebody who they can identify with then when they're seeking a therapist?
I think in your therapy career, and I think it should be a career personally, I don't believe this idea, I'm going to go to therapy for 6 months. Right. 6 months is, that's coffee talk.
Yeah.
That's coffee talk, that's 6 weeks, 6 months. I think you should have a career. I think in that career, it's good to have a therapist who is very identified with you, meaning gay or straight or whatever. I think you also should cross over and have the opposite sex therapist. Because the reason why is my therapist now is a woman. She brings to the therapy things that David as a man just didn't bring.
Have you ever had a straight male therapist?
Doug was straight.
Okay.
I'd had him for a while.
And you liked him?
Yeah, he was nice. Yeah. But with my therapist now, there's a maternal aspect, not about how she treats me, but how she looks at situations from a maternal point of view, where David was very paternal. And so things that I thought I understood with David Lindsay, I'm realizing I now have a fuller understanding by having been with my therapist now, Edith. So together, it's really a more round, it's more three-dimensional understanding. So I think that you should jump from gender. I think you should jump from identity. I think you should jump cultural differences if you can. I think it's very important.
Why did you not ever see a psychiatrist until David suggested you see one?
Well, because psychiatrists are pill pushers, and I didn't think I had a problem with pills. I didn't think that I needed pills.
How did you? That boggles my mind.
How did I not?
Because your life is falling apart. Mm-hmm. You're dropping out of college. You can't keep a job. You can't keep a relationship. You're trying to be straight, and then you're gay. All of these things. If I thought a pill could fix it, I'd be taking 10 of them.
Because I had this ridiculous belief from an early childhood that people who take pills are weak. And it's a weakness. And you're relying upon something that is false, and you should do it yourself.
And so your ego wouldn't allow you to be weak.
I had a friend of mine who was diagnosed with bipolar, and he took pills, and I remember, I regret this terribly, I totally went after him for being weak and why are you taking pills. It was my, again, denial, I think, of the whole situation that went along with it. Denial of the depression, denial that there's anything wrong. And so and when he did send me to Phil, the first psychiatrist, he gave me Ativan and he gave me something else, I can't recall what it is, went in my sock drawer.
Right.
Never took one. 3 months later, 4 months later, I started feeling better, poured them on the toilet. 2 months later, I was back in his office.
And meanwhile, you had been telling them, oh, I'm taking all the medication.
Yes, and they're like, see how good it is? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'm thinking, these guys are idiots. And it was not a smart thing.
You finally meet Alan, who you're now married to.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to tell you the part of the book where they meet because it's so funny. You don't want them to end up together. Actually, when you're reading it, you go, "Oh God, get away!" But it ends up obviously very well. They're married. You mentioned in chapter 32, you're having a conversation about Alan and his ability and sometimes inability to deal with a partner who has a mental illness, which a lot of people relate to. Oh my gosh. And you say this, I tried to explain it was more painful to stay together than to split. What he didn't understand is that activities that usually bring joy to anyone, a good meal, movie, meaningful sex, only reminded me of how sick I was because I derived no pleasure from it.
Yeah. That was a very hard day when I left. He was crying on the stoop of our building. He didn't understand why I would leave. I didn't think I'd see him again. Honestly, I didn't think I would, but when nothing gives you pleasure, and it's so painful because you know that you're in a situation that should bring you incredible pleasure and joy and happiness, and you feel nothing. It's like a death inside. You just don't feel like you belong in this world. And he didn't understand it. It was beyond his ken. He just couldn't understand it.
And he's in that moment is still being supportive.
And he let me go. And I only went like 10 blocks north or 13 blocks north to my friend Becca's mother's apartment. And I didn't talk to him for a while, and he was lost. He had no idea. He had no one to talk to. He was like me when I was 12 and 11, and no one could help. He didn't know who could help. He didn't know. We didn't know what to do. And that was before I was diagnosed with bipolar. They just gave me the depression thing, and I was on Prozac, which was ridiculous. Man, it just, how he stayed with me, why he stayed with me is beyond me.
What could he have known that would have made him an even better supporter in that moment?
That this too shall pass. I think he thought, this is what my life will be like for the rest of my life, meaning his. That he will always be the wind beneath my wings. He will always have to be the repository of all of my rage and anger and fear. If he knew that it would end at some point, I think it would give him comfort. And not understanding, but comfort. And what I wanted for him more than anything at that point was for him to feel okay. And he didn't. He blamed himself. He questioned us. He questioned our relationship. He questioned everything. And because he didn't want to dump it on me, because I was having my own breakdown, he was talking to friends and stuff, and he didn't know what to do. He just didn't know what to do. And I'll just never forget his face when I just walked down those stairs and he was crying. It was the death. It was a death.
Why did you leave?
Because staying with him was so much harder, and I couldn't fake it anymore. And I couldn't tell where the end of my relationship problems ended and the beginning of my mental illness problems, because I didn't really quite know what was going on yet. Still, I got the diagnosis of depression. And so I didn't know if I'm having a bad relationship and that's what's causing me to be depressed. Again, it's constantly that crossing off, trying to find out and eliminating. And I needed to be separate from him. And I saw with great relief that when I went to Becca's mother's house, it didn't change. I was still a miserable person. I was still so upset and couldn't function. And I thought, well, at least I know it's not him. And it would have been unfair to him to just constantly be, am I okay? Am I going to be okay? Do you think I'm going to be okay? Please tell me I'm okay. Do I seem crazy? I'm not crazy, am I? That constant need for reassurance. That's draining on a person. That really destroys relationships. It's acid and caustic.
For both people.
Yes.
How are you different today than you were in that moment?
I have my resources now. We have code, which is, I'm not having a good day. I don't think you should come anywhere near me today. And he knows to go off by himself or do something and not be in my path, because the Vanetta will go after him. He knows that. I've got a great therapist. I have a very good psychiatrist. I have friends who understand, and I know how to take care of myself. I know that I need to sleep. That's important. I know that I need to eat better. Okay, fine. Better than I'm eating. I know that I need to not overwhelm myself. I know I need to put time limits on things. I know I need to get play and recreation time in there. I know I have to take my medication regularly. And I didn't know those things. You learn those things as time goes on. You learn to adjust to your illness. You learn to let your illness speak to you and tell you what you need to do in order to thrive.
Never heard it like that.
That's what it does.
That's so good. Say that again. You need to learn, You need to listen to your illness when it speaks to you.
Excuse me.
Because it's telling you what you
Make me cry, damn it.
Can we get some tissue or something?
You need to listen to your illness to let it tell you how you need to act and be in order for you to thrive. It determines what you need. It tells you you need sleep. It tells you you can't do 5 things this week. It tells you that you have to be able to put a time limit on that. It tells you get your ass out there and have a good time or it's going to be bad. You have to accommodate it. It will never accommodate you.
When most people talk about their mental illness, they look at it, and I am guilty of this too, as something to fight against. I have to fight. And they even use those words like, I'm really fighting this. I have to overcome it. Where you just gave me a totally different way to think about any mental health condition, which is it's telling you what you need. You need to get your sleep. You need to eat better. You need to see a therapist. You need to take care of yourself in all of these specific ways. And I'm going to have to like think about that for a while. Because I've never thought of it that way.
If you don't respect your illness, you will never get well. You must respect your illness because it's not going to go away. So you must respect it because it has demands. It's like a child. It has demands. It will never grow up like a child will. And you have to respect it. You've got to take care of it and you have to respect it. And that's the way you can get well.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never looked at my depression that way or anybody else's mental illness.
It doesn't mean that you give in. It doesn't mean that you accept that you're depressed and therefore you're depressed the rest of your life. No, you accept you have something. Then the question is, what action are you going to take because you have it? What is that depression telling you need to do?
Yeah.
Is you have to exercise several times a week? Yeah. Is it that you need to be with Callie a lot more?
Yeah.
It will dictate what you need. That's the thing that I think is fascinating. Your illness, which caused so much pain, is what holds the answers.
And you actually have a degree in this.
Yeah.
So he's not just a patient, he's also a therapist.
That's right.
A non-practicing therapist.
Non-practicing therapist.
That's why I got here. I just want a little therapy, a little free therapy from David. When you got a prescription for Prozac, which was to treat depression.
Yes, it was.
You had this moment in the book, and actually I'm going to credit my producer for making sure I bring this up. You went to the pharmacy to get it. And tell me what you were feeling as you were about to fill that prescription.
It's so funny you say this. On the way down here, I went by the pharmacy, and it's still there on the corner of 34th Street in
They
Park.
do well.
Yeah. And I went in, and I remember I had it in my hand because the doctor was, I think, above, several floors above in the same building. I went downstairs, and I thought everyone is going to see, everyone's going to know. They see this, and when I give this prescription to that woman, it is the first notion, it's the first proof that I'm mentally ill. And she's going to be the first one to know. And I don't know what I expected, the horns and lights and, oh, we have a mental illness going. And it was as if I asked for aspirin. There was nothing. And so when I got through that fear and shame, I was standing outside. It was on Park Avenue. And I got a bottle of water from a vendor. And I had this belief that it was going to be over. It'll fix it. And I remember taking the pill and standing there against the wall and waiting. I mean, I was that naive, and I was waiting. And there's a part in the book where I talk about my dad. When I was much younger, he built our home, and he built our home with oak flooring, very 3/4 inch oak flooring, and talking about how I wanted this pill so much to put that flooring underneath me. My dad's flooring, that 3/4 inch oak. I wanted to stand on something solid for the first time. And I waited in the sun. It was early summer, just waited. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And nothing happened for weeks and weeks and weeks till they took me off of it. Because that wasn't my issue.
That wasn't the issue, right?
It's sort of like taking pills for your heartburn. You got a broken ankle.
Yes. When I want you to share this with our viewers too. When you went to your psychiatrist, and at this point, you've been on different medications for a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years. You've invited your therapist and your boyfriend to come in and take part in the session with your psychiatrist.
I did, yeah.
And then walk them through when you decided to fire your psychiatrist.
Sure. David Lindsay was there, Alan was there, And I remember the session.
David Lindsay is your therapist. Alan's your husband.
My husband. And so I said the prior session, I want to bring them in. He goes, no, you don't need to do that. I said, well, you don't understand. Maybe I am not presenting myself accurately. And what's important is you need accurate information.
That's right.
So maybe I am making myself look too good or too bad. I don't know. But to have a professional and my partner tell you, so he finally relented. He's very much one of those very arrogant mental health professionals. And he heads up this department uptown at one of the hospitals. And so they came in and we were sitting there and he didn't really want to ask questions, but they said their stuff, and he was not happy with what they had to say. He even dissed David. I instead of calling him doctor, then he called him Mr. or something like that, which really pissed David off. And so we got into the cab on the way home, all three of us, and David was furious. And so it wasn't that day that I fired him. It was shortly after. But I realized the arrogance of this man. He couldn't listen to other people. He couldn't let anyone else tell him what was going on. And so I walked in the next session and I said to him, so tell me, doctor, am I going to get any better? And his answer was, this is about as good as it's going to get. And then I said, fuck you. I will get better. I will thrive. I will have a great life, and it's not going to be with you.
Vanetta.
Got up and I walked out. I never looked back. Never looked back.
I am just so impressed that you did that. There are literally people who just clapped watching this. At least there's one person who just went like this. Because if my doctor told me that, even if I thought he was an arrogant asshole, I would have been like, well, that must be the truth. Because you're a doctor.
Cannot give them the power.
I know.
You cannot. You have to hold that power constantly. You give it over to them for a while, but you take it back.
Are you better than you were that day?
Oh my God, there's no comparison. I'm better now than I was at any point in my life. I am the healthiest I am now than any point in my life.
There's the proof. Why did you finally agree to take medication? You didn't take it that time we just discussed with Prozac, but why did you finally agree?
Because when you are on your knees and there's no lower to go, you will do anything. And drugs were my last resort.
Were you anything?
Yep.
I got that.
And
in David Leite's book, Notes on a Banana, he writes on page 312, when I was done hours later, he was reading a book. I picked up the phone and dialed Rachel. He said, I think I'm manic depressive. The first time you ever thought that, right?
Yep.
Rachel says this, a bipolar disorder is a serious diagnosis. If I were you, I'd be very careful about whom you talk to. There are consequences to something like this. My medical record, she explained, would forever show I was manic depressive, which could be reason enough to deny me life insurance and disability insurance, affect employment, and more. She asked, are you ready for something like that? He says, I was too worn out not to be.
Yep. And she was prescient because I cannot get disability and I cannot get life.
Is that true today?
Yep. Still can't get it. Wow. Still trying to, but I can't get it.
Because you have this diagnosis.
Yeah.
That's out of your control.
Yeah, of course it is.
Right. When you finally got that diagnosis, and I'm talking about now you have gone to 2 psychiatrists, they both said, oh yeah, bipolar, manic depressive, 100%. How did that feel?
Fantastic. It was God coming down himself right here and saying to me, you are going to be saved, child.
Yes.
You are going to be saved, praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Because it was finally, there was a name for it.
I get that.
This thing that had hounded me for 36 years had a name, and because it had a name and because it had edges, I knew that I could work with it. I knew that I could do something with it.
Every single person who struggles and struggles and struggles and struggles and then finds it feels the same way. Most people would be upset if they got a bipolar diagnosis.
I was delighted. Delighted.
Yeah.
You know, even throwing bipolar 1, I'd be happy. It's just, you know, I needed a name and I got it.
Now, why was it so hard for them to spot the hypomania?
Because the thing is, my hypomania, there was some sexually acting out, but you know, that was really swept under the rug of being gay. You know, that's what gay men do.
Right.
So
that's what men do.
That's what men do. Very good. Thank you very much. That's what men do.
Yeah.
And so therefore, that was normal. Then the high creativity, well, you're a creative person. That's normal. The loquaciousness, well, you're incredibly good with language. So that really kind of fits into there. And then, you're a great host. Well, you love food. So there was always a reason. There was always a peg to hang on that wasn't manic, wasn't hypomania. And so it was always just, sloughed off into something else. And the same way, like with depression too, it was always sloughed off to something else. But you've had a hard week, or it's a tough job, or you just lost your job, or whatever it is. And so if it were really glaring, if it were like I say that hypomania is kind of the watercolor version of grand mania, what I call it, which is bipolar 1 mania, which is like neon. If I had more neon symptoms, like I went out and I bought 2 cars or something, I think that would be a real tip. But I mean, I don't spend a lot of money. You can see I don't spend them on clothes. And so that wasn't really a big issue for me. And so a lot of those telltale things didn't fit me. It was the creativity. And that just was like, well, you're a creative.
Yeah. This idea of you being an advocate for yourself was constant throughout your book. I'm assuming it's still constant today, so throughout your life. One of the saddest moments of the book for me became one of my favorite moments, and not a sad moment. And it was the moment when you told your mother about the diagnosis. And as you suspected, her first question was, did I do this? Yeah. And you responded, which is the most perfect response. No, it's not about you. It's not about you. Yeah. And it's not. Why do you think so many parents react that way?
I think, well, in my mom's case, I think that there's a little bit of narcissism going on. It's about her. But I think in many parents' case, including my mom and my dad, did I do something wrong? Did I, when I told my dad that I was gay and my mom finally found out, what did we do wrong? And so with this, when there's an issue, I think the first thing you do is, did I do something wrong? I'm the parent. It's like with Callie or something. If something happens to Callie, you think, maybe I ignored it. It's my fault if I caught it earlier. And so I think that's what she was trying to do, but it came out very kind of narcissistic. And I think when people say, is it me? And they try and take responsibility for it, it's a way in which they can regain control. It's my fault, so I can do something about it. If it's not my fault, then it's out of control. I can't do anything. I can't grab onto it.
Yes.
So it's a way of getting control.
Have you heard of the just world theory?
No, what's that?
I had a conversation with Dr. Arrett on PTSD and sexual trauma. And there's a lot of victim blaming.
Yes.
Where if you were assaulted, the response from a lot of people is, well, why would you go to that part of town?
Yeah. Or why did I go to Mr. Good's basement?
Why did you go down there? And it's a way to keep them self-safe.
Yes.
Because they are in turn telling themselves, well, I would never go do that, so that can't happen to me. Which I know is a a little different than what you just explained, but it's that idea of bringing it back to them.
But see, that's the beginning of all bigotry. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't be there. I wouldn't be with those people. Well, you know what? You weren't in that situation, and you don't know how you would react.
That's correct. Yeah.
And that's a lack of empathy.
You were in group therapy.
I was.
Which, your response was kind of my response.
Yes.
Because A, I would love to see you in group therapy. And because I can imagine it would be a shift of compassion and what is this guy talking about? What was group therapy like? I kind of want to do it. I've never been in group therapy.
That was a trip because you go in, first of all, you just go in because you have the issue. There's no one, everyone is welcome. But the thing is, I only went to one. And I never went back, I think, 1 or 2. And because you see people on such extremes. And it made me realize when I saw this, that I can do something for myself. I'm not going to end up in a room somewhere and not be able to get up, even though there are people I understand medically that is what's going on. It made me realize that wasn't me. See, what happens is, like, when you're told you're gay, then you are grouped with every single gay person in the world. And it takes time to distinguish your gayness and who you are and how you differ. And when you're labeled bipolar, you're put into this big pot of bipolarness. And I think you take on all those qualities and you just go, I'm bipolar. But when you're with other people who have the same illness, you realize, I don't have that. Oh, this is very similar to what I have. I've never experienced that. And you start to understand your edges in that world of bipolar. And that's when I realized will never be a particular kind of bipolar. I probably will never be able to climb to those heights that this person has, but I understand more of who I am. And so it gave me, sometimes you find out what you want by finding out what you don't want.
Yeah, yes.
It allowed me to realize my differentiation. It really was very helpful.
Oh, that sounds so powerful.
It was because there were people there for whom, no matter what they did, no matter what the medical community and they will always be in a certain state. I realized that I was not going to be that way. And because the luck of the draw, that's just the way my genes came out. I'm not going to be that way. Mm-hmm. And then I saw people who were very high functioning, and I thought, my God, I wish I could have some of that. But they don't have some of the issues that I have of not being able to work like for hours and hours on end. They can, I can't. And the big thing for me that I took out of that was humor. There was a guy there who we were kind of laughing together. And when you can laugh at that, and not laugh at, but laugh with, laugh because you're part of it.
Yeah.
It took the sting out of it. It just took the sting because I'm like, yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, we're all crazy, right, kids? Let's just all agree about we're crazy. All right. Yeah. So now let's have fun being crazy.
Yeah.
And you could, that's when some bridges were made. That's when some understanding. And that's the beginning of empathy for me when I saw, my God, this person is doing the best they can.
Right.
And that's it. It's the best they can. And no matter what happens, this is where they're going to be for whatever reason. And then you start understanding and you have empathy. And that's when I think that's the beginning of wanting to help others in a way that's on their terms, not on your terms.
Would you recommend group therapy?
I would, but I would recommend a directed group therapy. This was sort of group. It was a self-guided group. There was no therapist there. There was no leader. There was someone who led, like, okay, let's start, let's stop, let's take a break. I would do it with a therapist because I think a therapist will be able to say, okay, Kyle, why are you having that reaction to David? There's something going on. Let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. And so you are then dealing with your bipolar or your mental illness or whatever it is, but they're also dealing with your reactions about how you see stuff. Your bigotry comes up, your lack of understanding, your lack of empathy, mm-hmm. Your narcissism, whatever it is comes up. Mm-hmm. And you use that group and the collection of those people's illnesses and personalities as your personal workspace.
What kind of treatment are you on today?
I take Depakote, Neurontin, and Effexor.
Sounds beautiful.
It is. It's wonderful. I'm actually thinking of asking my doctor if I can start going down on it because I'm feeling better than I ever have.
You know, that's scary stuff to hear from a bipolar.
I know. You're completely right. And my husband's like, wait a minute, what does this mean? My shrink is like, wait a minute, what does this mean? And I say, look, I'm sleeping 7 to 8, 9 hours a night. Mm-hmm. I am not buying cars. I am not sexually acting out. I am not coming up with a million ideas for a million different mm-hmm. books that I can write. None of that's happening. I'm enjoying my life, but I have Lyme disease. And there's a connection between mental illness and Lyme disease that some of the Lyme or Bartonella can actually cause psychiatric symptoms. And I noticed as I've gotten better with Lyme, some of the psychiatric symptoms have gotten a lot less. And if I can have fewer meds in my body and still have the same life, I'm all for it.
If there was one thing that you wish people knew about mental illness, what would it be?
That's a great question. That it's far more prevalent than anyone really thinks. I think everyone in this world is on a spectrum of something. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is. And if we understood that, I think that there would be a lot less fear. I think that there would be more compassion. I think there'd be more funding for some of these things. No one is 100% perfect. No one. Even you, Mr. Kyle.
Oh, yeah. Don't we all know that? Everyone's shaking their heads.
And I think there's something very freeing when you realize we are all flawed. Mm-hmm. And psychologically, we're flawed. And again, it's that thing, by embracing it and understanding it and seeing it and respecting it, I think you live a richer life. because you understand your limitations. You understand how to treat other people because you're in the boat with other people.
What do you know about your manic depressive?
I would never trade it for the world.
Really?
Never. Look at this. What I have become, I never could have become if I weren't manic depressive.
Really?
Absolutely.
You wouldn't trade it for the world?
No, nothing. Not 1 ounce of that pain, and there was a lot of it.
Because I would trade my depression for debt. I would take on someone's financial debt and give them my depression in return.
Because it burnished who I was. I think I have a great facility of language, and I think it shows in the book, because I spent years trying to explain to doctors what I felt. I used metaphor, I used simile, I used every verb and adjective that I could find. It was my way of understanding the power of language, and when I connected with a doctor who understood what I was saying, and I saw the light go on, it was like, oh my God, it went from here to there, and they get it. And I saw the power of that. I think I'm a writer because of my manic depression. I think I'm creative because of my manic depression. I think that I've created a world around me and my website and all the people and all the things that I've done, and I think it's because it's been seen through, fed through manic depression, and I wouldn't change it.
Who's the most important person in your life?
Alan.
And what would you want to tell him about where you guys have been and where you are now and what he means through all of that?
That I would apologize for all the pain that I caused, because I caused him a lot of pain. And that I hope that we spend the rest of our lives together enriching each other and it not being all about me. When you have a mental illness, my God, it's all about you. It's constantly about you. It is, you are gauging yourself every second. I'm sure you've experienced this with your depression. Am I depressed more now than I was this morning? Am I depressed less? And then the other partner is taking that in. They don't live their life. They are parasitic because you've made them parasitic. I want the rest of our lives to be separate, together but separate, where it's not parasitic, where he can thrive and enjoy, and I can watch and enjoy him thriving and enjoying.
Well, when you were kind enough to send me your book after I requested it, you wrote in it, "What will you write on your banana?" Yeah, and so I did write something on my banana.
Oh.
Thank you. So get your potassium. There's thank you for the banana. They probably need a close-up of that banana as well. And make sure you get a close-up of his socks.
Yes.
I mean, hello.
You get my banana socks.
I have plain lame socks.
My banana socks.
Is there anything we didn't talk about that we need to talk about?
Oh, we didn't talk much about food. The last part they said that we're going to talk about food and how food works, but I think we covered that. I think I said it was kind of meditative, so we did cover that. I think we covered everything. I do.
Well, thank you guys for watching, and make sure you go get his book. It's great. It really is wonderful. If it wasn't wonderful, I would have said, oh, cool book. We'll interview somebody else. It was a wonderful, wonderful book, so make sure you pick it up. Notes on a Banana. Thank you so much, David, for being here.
Thank you.
I'm Kyle Kittleson, and remember, whatever you're going through, you got this.